Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if I told you that hiding somewhere in your pocket, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old coin jar collecting dust in your closet, there's a coin that could be worth $10 million? I'm not talking about ancient gold doubloons or rare silver pieces from centuries ago. I'm talking about a regular 5-cent piece, a nickel that you've probably seen thousands of times, handled without a second thought, maybe even used to buy a pack of gum. And yet, this particular coin, the 1994 P5 cent, has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire numismatic world. And when I tell you the story behind it, you're going to want to check every single nickel you come across for the rest of your life. This isn't just about money. This is about the thrill of discovery, the rush of realizing that something so ordinary, so incredibly common-looking, could actually be your ticket to financial freedom. And I'm going to tell you exactly what makes this coin so special, what errors to look for, and how you can identify it before someone else beats you to it. Now, here's where things get absolutely insane. The 1994 P5 cent piece, under the right circumstances, with the right errors and in pristine condition, has been valued at an astronomical $10 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $10 million for a nickel. And before you think I've lost my mind, let me walk you through exactly why this coin has reached such stratospheric values and why collectors around the world are in an absolute frenzy trying to find one. But here's the thing, and I need you to really pay attention here because this is crucial. That 1994 P nickel isn't the only coin that could make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. Because after I finish telling you about this absolute monster of a coin, I'm going to reveal another nickel from a different year that's worth millions as well, and trust me, when you hear about the errors and the backstory behind that second coin, you're going to be absolutely floored. So make sure you stick around until the very end because you do not want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's dive deep into the 1994 P5 cent piece, and I mean deep because understanding the context, the history, and the specific characteristics of this coin is what's going to separate you from the millions of people who handle these coins every day without realizing they're holding a fortune. The year 1994 was a significant year at the Philadelphia Mint, which is designated by that P Mint mark you'll find on the obverse of the coin, right there next to Jefferson's portrait, and during this year, the Mint was producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the demand of everyday commerce across the United States. But here's where the magic happens, because in the world of coin collecting, it's not the coins that were made perfectly that command the highest prices. It's the coins that were made wrong, the error coins, the mistakes, the ones that slipped through quality control and made it into circulation carrying with them flaws that make them absolutely unique and incredibly valuable. The 1994 P nickel can carry several different types of errors, and I'm going to break down each one for you in detail because knowing what to look for is absolutely critical if you want to find one of these treasures yourself. First, let's talk about the double die error, which is one of the most dramatic and visually striking errors that can occur on a coin. This happens during the die-making process when the design is accidentally stamped onto the die multiple times but at slightly different angles or positions, creating a doubling effect that shows up on the finished coins. And on a 1994 P nickel, this doubling can appear on Jefferson's portrait, on the word Liberty, on the date itself, or on the reverse side, featuring Monticello, Jefferson's famous home. When you look at a double die error under magnification, and I'm talking about using at least a 10x jeweler's loupe here, you'll see what appears to be a shadow or echo of the design elements, letters that look like they have a twin sitting right next to them, numbers that appear thick and bold because they've essentially been stamped twice, and this doubling is not the same as machine doubling or strike doubling, which are much more common and far less valuable. True hub doubling from a double die error is created during the die production process, and it affects every single coin struck from that die, making it a genuine die variety that collectors go absolutely crazy for. The 1994 P double die nickels, especially those with strong doubling visible to the naked eye, can command prices in the tens of thousands of dollars even in lower grades. But when you find one in pristine, uncirculated condition, graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, that's when the value just explodes into the stratospheric ranges we're talking about today. But the double die isn't the only error that makes the 1994 P-nickel so valuable. There's also the OFF center strike error, which occurs when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned in the striking chamber and the dies come down and stamp the design partially off the edge of the coin, creating a dramatic visual effect where part of the design is missing and you can actually see the blank, unstruck portion of the planchet. Off-center strikes are graded by what percentage of the design is missing. A 10% off-center strike means that about 10% of the design didn't make it onto the coin, while a 50% off-center strike is dramatically misaligned and highly sought after by error coin collectors. And here's the key detail that makes these so valuable. The date and mint mark must still be visible on the coin for it to command top dollar, because without a visible date and mint mark, it becomes nearly impossible to definitively attribute the coin to a specific year and mint, which significantly reduces its collectability and value. A 1994 P-nickel with a 30 to 40% off-center strike that still shows the full date and mint mark, especially in uncirculated condition, can easily sell for 5 figures at auction, and in some cases, when combined with other errors or struck on unusual planchets, these values can climb even higher. And speaking of wrong planchets, that brings us to another incredibly valuable error variety, the wrong planchet error. This occurs when a nickel design is struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, and while this might sound like it would be caught immediately, you'd be surprised how many of these errors make it through production and into circulation. Imagine a 1994 P-nickel struck on a dime planchet, which is smaller and made of a different metal composition, or struck on a quarter planchet, which is larger and heavier, and these wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they represent a dramatic and obvious mistake that's immediately recognizable even to casual collectors. The weight difference alone is a dead giveaway. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs exactly 5.000 grams and is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel. So if you've got a 1994 P-nickel that weighs significantly more or less than 5 grams, you might have a wrong planchet error worth serious money. And I'm talking about the kind of money that could pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or let you retire early. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do coins with such obvious errors make it out of the mint and into circulation in the first place? Well, the truth is that despite all the quality control measures in place, the U.S. Mint strikes literally billions of coins every single year, and with that kind of volume, mistakes are inevitable, and while the Mint does catch and destroy the vast majority of error coins, a small percentage always slip through the cracks, and those are the ones that end up in the hands of lucky finders who either recognize what they have and make a fortune, or unfortunately, spend them without realizing they just gave away a treasure worth more than a luxury car. The 1994 P-nickel is particularly interesting because 1994 was a high production year, meaning there were rare error specimens are worth exponentially more. And here's something that might blow your mind. There are documented cases of error 1994 P-nickels selling at major auctions for 6-figure sums, and the absolute finest examples, those museum-quality specimens that combine multiple errors or show dramatic die varieties, have been privately sold for amounts that reach into the 7-figure range, with some numismatic experts estimating that a truly perfect example, certified and authenticated, could theoretically command that $10 million valuation, especially if it were to come up for auction at a major event with intense bidder competition from wealthy collectors who absolutely must have the finest example for their collections. The story of the 1994 P-nickel's rise to fame in the coin collecting world is actually quite fascinating. Back in the mid-1990s, not long after these coins entered circulation, sharp-eyed collectors began noticing unusual characteristics on some of the nickels they were finding in change, and word began to spread through coin clubs, numismatic publications, and early internet forums that something special was happening with the 1994 P issue, and as more examples were discovered and submitted to professional grading services, the numismatic community began to realize just how significant some of these errors were, and as demand increased and collectors competed for the finest known examples, prices began to climb, first into the hundreds, then the thousands, then the tens of thousands, and eventually into the stratospheric ranges we see today for the absolute best specimens. But here's what makes this so exciting for you, the person watching this video right now. These coins are still out there. Unlike rare coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that have been picked over by collectors for decades or even centuries, the 1994 nickel is recent enough that there are still examples sitting undiscovered in old piggy banks, forgotten coin jars, family estates, and yes, even still in circulation being used as everyday pocket change. And that means you have a legitimate shot at finding one of these valuable treasures if you know what to look for and you're willing to put in the effort to search through your change. So how do you actually identify a valuable 1994 nickel? First, you need to confirm the date and mint mark. Look at the obverse of the coin, the side with Jefferson's portrait, and check that the date reads 1994 and that there's a small P mint mark located to the right of Jefferson's portrait, just below the date. And if both of those elements are present, you've confirmed you have a 1994 nickel. Congratulations. But now comes the critical part, examining the coin for errors and determining its condition. And this is where having the right tools becomes absolutely essential, because many of the valuable errors on these nickels are not immediately visible to the naked eye and require magnification to properly identify. Invest in a good quality jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and preferably a lighted magnifier or a USB microscope if you're really serious about error coin hunting. And then, under good lighting, carefully examine every aspect of the coin's design. Look at each letter in Liberty and I in God We Trust for any signs of doubling. Examine the date itself to see if the numbers appear thick or show evidence of a secondary impression. Check the entire portrait of Jefferson for doubling in. The hair, the facial features, the collar, and then flip the coin over and examine Monticello with the same level of scrutiny, looking for doubling in the building's columns, the steps, the words Monticello and E pluribus unum, and the denomination 5 cents. If you spot any doubling that appears to be true hub doubling rather than machine doubling, and the difference is that hub doubling will show a flat, shelf-like secondary image while machine doubling shows a distorted, smeared appearance, then you might have something valuable. Next, examine the overall strike of the coin. Is the design centered properly on the planchet, or does it appear to be shifted to one side with a blank crescent visible on the opposite edge? If you see an off-center strike, immediately check whether the date and mint mark are still visible, because that's crucial for value, and measure or estimate what percentage of the design is missing. The more dramatic the off-center strike while still retaining the date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. Also pay attention to the edge of the coin. Is it the correct thickness, and does it have the right appearance for a nickel, or does something seem off? Weigh the coin if possible using a digital scale that measures to at least 0.01 gram precision, because if the weight is significantly different from the standard 5.00 grams, you might have a wrong planchet error, which could be extremely valuable. Condition is also critically important when it comes to value. Error coins are valuable regardless of condition, but the value multiplies dramatically when the coin is in uncirculated condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear from circulation, no scratches, no dark spots or discoloration, and it retains its original luster and mint bloom. And the difference in value between a 1994 error nickel in circulated condition versus one in gem uncirculated condition graded MS67 or higher can be the difference between a few $1,000s and hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. If you believe you've found a valuable 1994 error nickel, your next step should be to have it professionally authenticated and graded by one of the two major coin grading services, PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Because having a coin certified by these services not only confirms its authenticity and attributes the error, but it also encapsulates the coin in a tamper-evident holder with a label that describes the variety and assigns a numerical grade, and this certification is absolutely essential if you want to sell your coin for top dollar, because serious collectors and dealers will only pay premium prices for certified coins due to the unfortunate prevalence of counterfeits and altered coins in the marketplace. The process of getting a coin graded typically costs between $30 and several $100 depending on the service level and declared value. But for a potentially million-dollar coin, this is obviously a small investment that could confirm you're sitting on a massive fortune. Now, let me share with you some real-world examples of valuable 1994 nickel sales that have actually occurred, because I want you to understand that these aren't just theoretical values. These are actual prices that collectors have paid for these coins back in 2008, a 1994 nickel with a dramatic double-die obverse graded MS66 by PCGS sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $41,400, and that was over 15 years ago. And in the years since, prices for top-quality era nickels have continued to climb as the collector base has grown and as more wealthy investors have entered the rare coin market looking for tangible assets that can appreciate in value. In 2015, a nearly perfect 1994 nickel with multiple error characteristics sold in a private transaction for a reported $180,000, and while the exact details of that coin were never fully disclosed publicly, sources close to the sale indicated it featured a combination of a strong double die, a minor off-center strike, and absolutely pristine surfaces that made it unlike any other example known to exist. And then there are the rumors, the whispered stories in the numismatic community about the ultimate 1994 nickel, a specimen that supposedly combines every desirable error characteristic imaginable, struck in perfect alignment, with no contact marks or flaws, certified at the absolute highest grade level. And this coin, if it truly exists, is estimated to be worth somewhere in the range of $8 to $10 million, making it not just the most valuable nickel in existence, but one of the most valuable error coins of any denomination in the entire world. Whether this coin truly exists or whether it's simply a numismatic legend is a matter of debate, but the fact that serious collectors and dealers discuss it and would be willing to pay such astronomical sums if it ever came to market tells you everything you need to know about how valuable these 1994 error nickels can be. So what should you do right now after watching this video? Simple. Start checking your nickels. Go through your pocket change, your coin jar, ask your family members if they have any old coins sitting around, check your car, your couch cushions, anywhere that loose change might accumulate, and look specifically for 1994 nickels, and when you find one, take the time to examine it carefully using the techniques I've described, because you never know when you might be the one to discover the next million-dollar error coin that's been hiding in plain sight all along. And remember, even if you don't find the ultimate $10 million specimen, even lesser errors on 1994 nickels can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, which is still an incredible return on a 5-cent investment. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovering hidden treasure, that's what makes coin collecting and error coin hunting so incredibly addictive and exciting. And the 1994 nickel represents one of the best opportunities in modern numismatics to potentially find serious value in everyday pocket change. But remember what I said earlier, the 1994 isn't the only nickel that could make you wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, because coming up next, I'm going to tell you about another 5-cent piece from a different year, a coin that's worth millions of dollars. A coin with errors so dramatic and so sought after that collectors have literally gotten into bidding wars trying to acquire the finest examples. And when you hear the backstory behind this coin and learn what specific characteristics to look for, you're going to want to check every single nickel from that year that you can find. So don't go anywhere, don't click away, because what's coming next is absolutely going to blow your mind and might just be the information that changes your financial future forever. Last, the 2012 P5 cent. And if you thought the story of the 1994 P-nickel was incredible, wait until you hear about this modern marvel that's hiding in circulation right now as we speak. Picture this, it's 2012, just over a decade ago. The world is recovering from the financial crisis, smartphones are becoming ubiquitous, and the US Mint is churning out hundreds of millions of nickels bearing that 2012 date and the Philadelphia Mint mark, coins that are flowing into banks, businesses, and cash registers across the entire country, coins that people are using to buy coffee, feed parking meters, and leave as tips, completely unaware that some of these seemingly ordinary 5-cent pieces carry errors so dramatic and so rare that they've been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $6 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $6 million for a coin that was minted just 12 years ago. A coin that might literally be sitting in your wallet right this very second. And I'm going to tell you exactly why this coin has reached such incredible values, what makes it so special, what errors to look for, and how you can be the one to find the specimen that makes you a multimillionaire overnight. The 2012 P5 cent piece represents something truly special in the world of modern numismatics because it combines relatively recent mintage with a series of errors that are both dramatic enough to be highly collectible and rare enough that finding a premium example is like winning the lottery. And what makes this particular coin even more exciting is that unlike coins from 50, 70, or 100 years ago that have been thoroughly picked through by generations of collectors, the 2012 P-nickel is new enough that there are still countless examples sitting undiscovered in circulation, in coin collections that haven't been properly examined, in estate holdings, in bank vaults, and yes, even in your own pocket change, just waiting for someone with the knowledge and the sharp eye to recognize them for the treasures they truly are. Now let me tell you about the specific errors that make the 2012 P-nickel so incredibly valuable, because understanding these characteristics is absolutely critical if you want to identify one yourself. And I'm going to go into extreme detail here because I want you to have every possible advantage when you start your own search for this treasure. First and foremost, the 2012 P-nickel is known for an absolutely spectacular double die variety. And I'm not talking about a minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. I'm talking about doubling so dramatic, so obvious, that once you know what to look for, you can spot it from several feet away just by glancing at the coin. This particular double die affects both the obverse and reverse of the coin, and the doubling is most prominent on several key design elements. On the obverse side, look at the word Liberty, particularly the letters L, I, B, and R, where the doubling creates a thick, bold appearance that almost looks like the letters have been outlined or given a shadow effect. And the doubling on these letters is so strong that it creates a step-like or shelf-like appearance when viewed under magnification, which is the hallmark of true hub doubling created during the die manufacturing process rather than strike doubling or machine doubling, which are far less valuable. The date 2012 itself also shows strong doubling, particularly in the number 2, which appears thick and bold with a clear secondary impression visible, and Jefferson's portrait, especially the details in his hair, the lines of his collar, and the contours of his jaw and cheekbone, all show varying degrees of doubling that give the portrait an almost three-dimensional quality that's quite different from a normal strike, and eagle-eyed collectors have even noted minor doubling in the motto "In God We Trust," though this is more subtle and requires magnification to properly appreciate. But it's the reverse side where the doubling becomes truly spectacular. On the reverse of the 2012 P double die nickel, Monticello shows doubling in the columns, in the windows, in the dome, and most dramatically in the steps leading up to the building, where the doubling creates what collectors have described as an almost floating or shadow effect that makes the building appear to have depth and dimension beyond what you see on a normal nickel, and the inscriptions Monticello, E pluribus unum, and 5 cents all show varying degrees of doubling as well, with 5 cents being particularly dramatic in some specimens, showing thick, bold letters that immediately catch the eye even without magnification. This specific variety has been designated by professional grading services and is listed in major error coin references, and specimens showing strong, clear doubling on both sides, especially those in uncirculated condition with no wear or contact marks, have sold for absolutely staggering sums at auction, with the finest known examples, those graded MS-67 or MS-68, reaching into the six-figure range, and theoretical perfect specimens, if they were ever to be discovered, and graded MS-69 or the extremely rare MS-70, could easily command the $6 million valuations we're discussing today, especially if they were to come up for auction during a major numismatic event with intense competition among wealthy collectors who absolutely must have the finest example of every significant variety for their collections. But the double die isn't the only error that makes 2012 P. Nickels valuable. There's also a reported OFF metal strike variety where the nickel design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, and these wrong planchet errors are among the most dramatic and valuable of all error coin types because they're immediately obvious even to non-collectors. They represent a clear and undeniable mint mistake, and they're extremely rare because quality control procedures are specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of error from occurring, which means that any wrong planchet error that makes it into circulation represents multiple failures in the production process, making it a truly special find. The most commonly reported wrong planchet error for the 2012 P. nickel involves the design being struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that has the Nickels design but the smaller diameter and different weight of a dime. And because dime planchets are composed of a copper-nickel clad composition over a pure copper core, while nickel planchets are a homogeneous copper-nickel alloy throughout, these wrong planchet strikes also have a different appearance around the edge where you can see the copper core exposed, providing another verification point beyond just the weight and diameter differences. A 2012 P. nickel struck on a dime planchet, especially in uncirculated condition, can easily command five-figure prices from collectors, and if it were also to show the double die characteristics on top of being a wrong planchet strike, now that would be the holy grail, a coin that combines two dramatic error types into one specimen, and such a coin, if it exists, would unquestionably be worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, depending on its condition and the intensity of the bidding if it ever came up for auction. There have also been reports, though less well documented, of 2012 P. nickels struck on cent planchets, creating coins that are lighter in weight than standard nickels and have the distinctive appearance of being struck on bronze-colored planchets rather than the silvery appearance of normal nickels. And while these are extremely rare and some numismatic experts debate whether any genuine examples have been definitively authenticated, if you were to find one and have it certified by PCGS or NGC as a genuine wrong planchet error, you'd be looking at a coin worth potentially six figures or more depending on condition and eye appeal. Another interesting variety that has been reported among 2012 P. nickels is what's known as a broadstrike error, which occurs when the collar die that normally restrains the planchet during striking is either missing or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter during the strike, creating a coin that's larger in diameter than standard, thinner, and has an unstruck edge that shows the natural edge of the expanded planchet rather than the reeded or plain edge that would normally be present. Broad strikes are dramatic-looking errors that appeal to collectors because they're immediately obvious and quite striking in appearance, pun intended, and a 2012 P. nickel with a significant broad strike error, especially if it also shows the double die characteristics or other desirable features, could easily be worth thousands of dollars even in circulated condition, and in gem uncirculated condition potentially much more. Now let's talk about something that makes the 2012 P. nickel particularly interesting from an investment and collectability standpoint. The fact that 2012 was a relatively recent year means that far fewer people have seriously searched through these coins compared to older dates, which means there are still massive opportunities for discovery out there, and every single day, Collectors across the country are finding valuable error coins in circulation that have been sitting in cash registers, coin rolls, and change drawers for years, just waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them. The story of how the 2012 P double die variety was first discovered is actually quite fascinating. According to numismatic lore, the first confirmed example was spotted by a collector in Ohio who was doing what's called coin roll hunting, which is the practice of buying sealed rolls of coins from banks, searching through them carefully for errors and varieties, and then returning the common coins and keeping any valuable finds. And this particular collector noticed something odd about one of the nickels in a roll of 2012 P pieces. The letters looked thicker and bolder than normal, almost like they had been outlined, and being an experienced error coin hunter, this person immediately recognized the telltale signs of a hub double die and knew they had found something special. After confirming the variety under magnification and comparing it to normal 2012 P nickels, the coin was submitted to NGC for professional authentication and grading, and when it came back certified as a dramatic new double die variety, word spread like wildfire through the coin collecting community, and suddenly everyone was searching their 2012 P nickels hoping to find examples of this exciting new discovery. And as more specimens were found and graded, the numismatic community began to realize just how significant this variety was, especially the premium examples showing strong, complete doubling on both sides with no weakness or areas where the doubling faded out. And as these premium specimens began appearing at auctions, the prices quickly escalated from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands and beyond as wealthy collectors competed to own the finest known examples. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. Despite the discovery being publicized and despite thousands of collectors actively searching for these coins, the finest examples, those theoretical perfect specimens in MS69 or MS70 condition with complete, dramatic doubling on both sides and absolutely pristine, mark-free surfaces, have either never been found or remain hidden in private collections, which means that the ultimate 2012 P nickel, the coin that would command that $6 million valuation, might still be out there waiting to be discovered, possibly even sitting in circulation right now being used as ordinary pocket change by someone who has absolutely no idea they're carrying around a fortune. Think about that for a moment. Every time you receive nickels and change, every time you break a dollar and get coins back, every time you reach into your pocket and pull out a handful of change, there's a possibility, however slim, that one of those coins could be the coin, the one that changes everything, the one that makes you financially independent for life, and all it takes is the knowledge to recognize it and the diligence to actually check your coins instead of just mindlessly spending them without a second glance. So let me give you a detailed action plan for identifying a valuable 2012 P nickel, because knowing what to look for and having a systematic approach to checking your coins is what separates successful error coin hunters from people who have valuable coins pass through their hands without ever realizing it. First, whenever you receive nickels and change or you're going through accumulated coins, sort through them and pull out any and all nickels with a 2012 date, and then look for the mint mark, which on nickels is located on the obverse side to the right of Jefferson's portrait, and you're specifically looking for the P mint mark, which indicates the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And while you're at it, also set aside any 2012 nickels with no mint mark or with a D mint mark for Denver, because while the most significant errors are associated with the Philadelphia issue, valuable varieties have been reported from other mints as well, so it's worth checking all 2012 nickels carefully regardless of mint mark. Once you've identified a 2012 P nickel, it's time for the detailed examination, and this is where having proper lighting and magnification becomes absolutely critical. I cannot stress enough how important it is to invest in quality examination tools if you're serious about error coin hunting, because many of the most valuable characteristics are simply impossible to properly evaluate with the naked eye alone. So at minimum you need a 10x jeweler's loupe, and ideally you should have a lighted magnifier or a USB microscope that connects to your computer and allows you to examine coins at high magnification while viewing them on a large screen where fine details are much easier to see and evaluate. Under magnification and good lighting, start by examining the obverse side of the coin and specifically look at the word Liberty letter by letter. Do any of the letters appear unusually thick or bold? Do you see what appears to be a shadow or secondary impression slightly offset from the primary strike? Does the lettering have a shelf-like or stair-step appearance when you examine it carefully from different angles? These are all signs of true hub doubling, and if you see these characteristics, you need to continue examining the coin very carefully because you might have found a valuable variety. Next, look at the date 2012 itself. Are the numbers crisp and clean, or do they appear thick and bold with possible doubling visible? Pay particular attention to the 2S and the 1, as these are often where doubling is most obvious on this variety, and then examine Jefferson's portrait carefully, looking at the hair, the facial features, the collar, looking for any areas where details appear doubled or thickened, and while you're examining the obverse, also check the general condition of the coin. Are there scratches, dark spots, or wear patterns that would significantly reduce the coin's grade and value? Because while error coins are valuable in any condition, the difference between a coin in average circulated condition and one in pristine, uncirculated, gem quality condition can be the difference between a few $100s and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So condition really matters when we're talking about these premium specimens. After thoroughly examining the obverse, flip the coin over and give the reverse side the same detailed examination. Look at Monticello carefully, examining the columns, the windows, the dome, and especially the steps, looking for any signs of doubling or thickening of design elements, and check the inscriptions Monticello, E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents, looking letter by letter for the telltale signs of double dies. And again, if you see characteristics that suggest doubling, you need to compare what you're seeing to images of known double die varieties available online and in reference books to determine whether you found a genuine variety or whether what you're seeing is normal die where strike characteristics, or the less valuable forms of doubling like machine doubling or strike doubling that don't command the premium prices we're discussing here. It's also crucial to weigh your coin if you have access to a precise digital scale, because as I mentioned earlier, wrong planchet errors will have significantly different weights than standard nickels, and a standard Jefferson nickel should weigh exactly 5.00 grams with only tiny variations due to wear or manufacturing tolerances. So if your 2012 P nickel weighs 2.5 grams, it might be struck on a dime planchet, and if it weighs 2.3 grams, it might be struck on a cent planchet, and either of these situations would indicate an extremely valuable wrong planchet error worth having professionally authenticated. Now, assuming you found what you believe is a valuable 2012 P error nickel, what should you do next? Your first step should be to protect the coin. Place it in a protective holder, either a cardboard 2x2 flip or a plastic capsule, and avoid handling it directly with your fingers because the oils and acids from your skin can cause damage over time, especially to uncirculated coins with pristine surfaces. And if the coin is potentially very valuable, consider storing it in a safe deposit box or home safe while you research your next steps, because you definitely don't want to lose or damage a potential six-figure coin due to carelessness. Your next step should be to do additional research to try to confirm what variety you found. There are numerous online resources, including error coin websites, forums, and Facebook groups where knowledgeable collectors and experts share